It's 5:30. We are in time for our panel discussion on wealth creation through smart investments. May I request all our delegates to please be seated so we can begin our session and invite our delegates here on the dais. I see a lot of our delegates standing around in the hallway. Can I please have you in the main hall and please be seated? All our speakers have maintained their timeline and they've respected our timelines. I suggest that we shouldn't do anything that wastes their time and everybody else's. Few people standing here, it obstructs the decorum. Can we please have everybody seated inside the main hall so we can begin our session? While everybody gets seated, I would like to make some important announcements. I see all the registered delegates have a badge like this. Behind the badge, we have important phone numbers for assistance. In case you need any assistance, you can call up these numbers. Make sure you carry these badges with you every single day of the conference to have all access. Otherwise, there would be a problem of accessing some of your areas. Another announcement was one of our delegates have misplaced their bag, which contains an iPad from that corner of the room. In case somebody has picked the wrong bag, because again, they all look alike, in case by mistake you have picked up wrong bag, kindly just check your bag. If it contains an iPad that's not yours and another folder that doesn't belong to you, kindly submit it towards the stage so we can give it to the owner of the bag. I repeat, one of our delegates has misplaced their bag from the extreme left corner of the room. If you have a bag, kindly check. If it is not yours, please submit it here towards the stage. If everybody has done checking their bags, may I know if somebody has found with them a bag that is not theirs? May I please call upon Shri Manish Kataria to introduce our chairperson of this session? Manish Kataria ji.
Good evening, everyone. I request all of you to be seated. The session is going to start immediately. Can we have the volunteers to help everyone sit down quickly, please? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So the session which we are going to have right now is a very interesting session. It's going to be more of a question answer session. The session is called Wealth Creation Through Smart Investments. The moderator for the evening does not need an introduction, but Shri Mrugang Paranjapeji, he's a senior partner at Alpha Alternatives. He's also the former MD and CEO of MCX, and he's also an alumni of IIT Mumbai and IIM Ahmedabad. The other panelist, Shri Rakesh Junjunwala ji from Rare Enterprises, Shri Gaurav Dalmia ji. Thank you. Shri Gaurav Dalmia ji, Chairman Dalmia Group of Holdings, and Shri Subhash Thakrar ji, former Chairman, London Chamber of Commerce and Industry, London. So we welcome you all for this wonderful and insightful session. Over to Mrugang ji. Thank you.
Thank you, and a very good evening to all of you. And thank you to my fellow panelists for being here. They were actually more than spot on time. They were much before time. So thank you for being here. Like we were discussing just before the session, very aptly said by one of my fellow panelists that you don't need too much of an introduction, otherwise you shouldn't have been here. And with that, I'm just going to quickly get into the session with first the talk itself. So each one of you, sir, has been an investor in a very, very different way and have made your name as an investor. But just to begin the session, and in no particular order, but we can start with Rakeshji because you're sitting on that side. What would you say to the topic of creating wealth through smart investments? What is your view of what is a smart investment?
Well, a smart investment is one which gives you a greater rate of return than what is possible in alternative assets with the measured risk profile. So, I mean, if I can get if at a time I can get best return on equity, or a return from anywhere which is better and higher and returns can be measured in mathematical terms, that is the best investment. And it's transitory at different points of time, different investments are interesting. So I think that is how it define, and of course the risk profile. You know, I may go and invest in a lottery and you may be lucky, you may 5 lotteries in a row. Doesn't mean you are smart here. You're only lucky. So it has to be measured along with the risk that you take.
Well, the way I would look at smart investments, of course, is you have to generate what hedge fund managers would call alpha, which Rakeshji just pointed out means you need to do better than the market. I would add to it that it needs to be over long periods of time. It's easy to make superior returns over a 3-year period or a 5-year period, but over long term, across business cycles, to make superior returns is a bigger challenge than we think. So I think you need to add that dimension of time. Thirdly, I would say that it needs to fit into your own temperament. Some people are more comfortable with public markets. Some people are more comfortable with private equity. Some people are more comfortable with credit type investments and so on and so forth. So if you go outside your temperament, if a real estate guy tries to invest in technology, he may certainly fail because it's outside his core competence. So when you marry these things, I think you get smart investments.
See, Gaurav, I disagree with Gaurav in one thing. What is core competence? I invested in a jewelry company. I invested in a health insurance company. I invested in a bank. I invested in a pharma company. I invested in an IT company. So I don't think there is, anything like a core competence. I can agree to invest in anything in the world. So the question is this concept of core competence. Because I think investment it's a valuation, it's a projection of the future, and it's projection of the business model. Right? So I think that can be understood in all fields.
I'd like to come into that. Rakesh ji, you are by far par excellence investor in India. Everybody recognizes you. So you are already a smart investor. In the sense that you have the guts and the ability to pick and choose and make it work. Smart can mean various other things. The word smart is very widely used, Chair. It can be, I think in the modern sense, we're more talking about digitization, where you have investment decisions are triggered off by systems. And you have systems where individuals' risk profiles are worked out so that there is a strategy for investment. It may not quite work in the way you invest.
So in my opinion, it's all garbage in, garbage out. If machines could be big investors, they would be the richest people in the world today.
Machines are a tool.
No, but sir, the richest investors are not machines. So therefore, we can't say, machines can only predict because of what's happened in the past. And Warren Buffett said that if if the rear view mirror was the best, the librarians would have been the best investors in the world. So I don't believe that machines can be good investors at all. Because investment finally requires intuition. Finally, it requires assessment of things which cannot be quantified. And machines can only work on quantified basis.
But do you not agree that there is a high degree of gut feeling when you're investing?
Guts means risk-taking, because that's all I've done in life. I've never put money in debt. I have no fixed deposits. Maybe I have some money lying in the public provident fund. I only invest in equity because I started life with $100, with 5,000 rupees, right? And all I have, all my wealth is equity. And all I do know. But see, the question is, I have chosen to invest in equity in a time, why have I got the return? I think it's more because India has gone through a bullish phase. Whether India has gone 2, 5, 7 or 9, India has grown. And when India grows 5% with 10% inflation, it is very much in favor of the investor. Right? And it grows 7% with 4% inflation, that is also in favor. I was only the right man with the right attitude, with the right guts at the right time. So it's not that it's only because of my skills or my ability, and after all, luck plays the biggest role. The most successful investment I made in life is Titan, and it's an accident, Because I knew about the company, but somebody called me one day and said a lot is available. And the intuitive man that time, I said, okay, I'll buy it. And that's how the story started. And the price of Titan that time was 34 rupees. That price today is 26,000. So it's luck, so it's a combination of so many factors.
So on that point, the fact that you mentioned that you've always been an equity investor, I'll bring in my next question, which is around one thing which everybody talks about is asset allocation. So for wealth creation, do you believe it's something that everybody must do?
What?
Or how do you do asset allocation? And how do you look at asset allocation?
I think that is more important in choosing the specific investment. In 1981, if we had bought Japan and the US long bond 30 years, right? And 90 you would have bought in NASDAQ, right? And then in 2007 you had bought gold. Where would you have been today? So the asset allocation is the most important act, right, for wealth creation, which is the micro. And then you use the specific asset. That's what I feel.
I would second that view. I think we underestimate the importance of asset allocation. And at least for us, we tend to play for long-term capital gains over long periods of time. We don't tend to play for current income and so on and so forth. So asset allocation for us, given our needs, is very clear. Somebody else's needs, for a pension fund, the needs may be different. For an individual investor, the needs may be different. So I think you need to marry asset allocation to your needs. And I think that is actually a very, very important consideration.
No, but that's what arises because you have to marry asset allocation to your needs, right? It limits your asset allocation. For me, I can marry my needs to my asset allocation. So I can invest everything in equity.
I think one has to look at the risk profile of the investor, and particularly those investors who are not traders in investment, but are actually looking at a more organized way of investing. Then asset allocation is the most important way of doing it to match with the risk profile of the investors. That is good investment management that one can go through. However, a comment I'd make is that majority of the investors in India have traditionally been India-centric in their investment. There are not that many that, in my experience and my knowledge, who have looked outside India to invest.
Why? But a lot of people ask me this question.
Yeah.
But I invest everything in India. But when the food at home is so good, why eat outside here? And the opportunities in India is so huge and so good.
But just to put that into context, international investors, when they look at their worldwide portfolio, India represents 2 or 3%.
That may be so. That's their choice.
And it's not part
We
of
have
the
done better than
balanced
them.
world portfolio. So I agree with you that those who are very feeling comfortable with and they get very good returns here, they may feel very comfortable with
I have
it.
some friends in London. You know what I can find them? Some fellow once sold his Titan in India and bought Romanian real estate. Right? So they are, more than anything, if they're confused, I get confused. I contemplated investing abroad, but you get confused every day. So better to stick to your own wicket.
I agree with this point of view. I mean, if you look at the data, the best performing stock market in the world over 20 years in dollar terms is the US stock market. Guess what is the second best stock market in dollar terms over the same 20 years? It's India.
Well, second thing, I don't know. See, there is
actually India.
No,
So why?
for me, who makes large investments in a single company, there is a passion, there is an emotion, there is an involvement. I don't know anybody there. I can see the screen. These companies go read some research. So there's no emotion in that.
There's no doubt that India has been an amazing investment environment. I have been
What have you seen
investing.
here? You have seen nothing, sir. You have seen nothing.
Rakeshji, I've been investing here and I started a fund back in 1995. That's when India was opening up. And it's the oldest fund outside India. And we've had an amazing performance, right? We're tenfold up. So, I mean, perhaps still not as good a performance as you might have, but for an international overseas investor, India has performed. India has been a great story. And I think we are at a platform to see another 10 years or maybe 15 years of real growth and expansion.
But
and
Sandeep,
value
I'll tell you
increase.
one thing. See, I don't ever measure my performance for who. I have one client, that's my wife, right? She's a monopoly customer, there is no choice. She has no choice, I have no choice. I don't manage money for others because I don't want to be answerable to anybody. But with her, I have no choice. So I never measure my return. Because you can measure it, you don't have it.
That's obviously been your biggest investment.
So if I may ask on that count, if asset allocation is so important, but obviously, and we've got an audience here, most of whom would probably not even have a fraction of what expertise most of you have in one asset class. So how do I go about really choosing either an advisor or getting advice, or how do I educate myself as an investor and put my money wherever I want to put it?
I don't have any advisors. So I educate myself by experience and by reading. I have no advisors as such. And if a lot of fund people come to me, I said, boss, you'll put me out of business here. If I give you my money, then my wife will say, what are you doing?
But I have to say that, and I know a reasonable bit about how Rakeshji will go about with investing and so on, and I could never be him, right? I could never invest like him. I am an organized investor. I will organize and find the right people to do the research and make the allocations and deal with it. So there are two ways of investing. That is a super way of doing it if you can do it. But there is an organized way of doing it. where you can passively invest and then forget about it and leave it to other professionals to do it. And I think your question is, how do you find the professionals? That is a tough question because there are many professionals. There are many people who are capital advisors and so on. And how do you do that? Well, I think it's recommendations from others. It's looking at their performance and seeing how well they're doing their research and giving them some money. Maybe there's also some argument about giving 2 or 3 advisors certain amount of money and see how they perform.
See, a good advisor, people tend to look at performance of advisors in bull markets. I would lay only 2 criteria for a good advisor. One is I look at his performance in bearish markets. And second is how passionate he is about it. Right? It's only passion and the ability to withstand, market volatility and moves are those who can make good advisors. And I don't believe all this alpha, volatility and measurement. Markets are like women. Always commanding, always mysterious, always uncertain. Always volatile, always exciting. And it is my belief that we cannot measure a woman's moods, her reactions. They are unique to each woman, right? The market is also unique. So therefore, by how the machine trying to learn how the market learns, and there is big behavioral science. I don't know. There are so many sciences involved. I think I use all of them, but I don't know. I can't. I use them in my own way. So I think choosing a good advisor means one who's. Pardon? क्या बोले? Yeah? She's objecting to the fact that I say markets are like women. I'm respecting women, ma'am. I have realized I have to respect my wife. I have to adjust with her. Yeah, markets are kings. I have to adjust with markets. Right? If I want to do if I want something in markets and it doesn't happen, I have to listen. Just like I have to listen to a woman. And these are my serious beliefs, which I have myself learned with the 30 years that I have spent in the market. To make wealth in this market is extremely difficult. To retain that wealth is even more difficult. And to grow that wealth is even more difficult. So, you cannot equate my case to a common person who has savings and who wants to make money. My profession is investing. But we have to respect markets.
Yeah, so we have a mixed strategy. We tend to do most of our investments directly. So we do a lot of private equity. We do mostly directly. We do a lot of public markets. We again do mostly directly. In public markets, we also work with other managers. We like technology as a sector, but temperamentally, we can't play it. We are too chicken to really play it. So we tend to invest as a limited partner in other people's funds. Similarly, we invest internationally in the US and all a little bit. And again, we don't have knowledge, so we tend to be a limited partner in funds. But 80% of our assets are self-managed because we think we can do a better job knowing our temperament, knowing our needs, than handed up.
I'm going to talk about
100% of my assets are also not managed by me because the investments may be managed by me. Right? Where to invest, at what valuation to invest, with what rights to invest is chosen by me. But essentially, the assets are managed by the owner or promoter.
A slightly different question because in recent past in India, we've seen one asset class which was seemed to be safe, which is fixed income investments, has suddenly become unsafe. So your views again on how you
why do you think it's unsafe? Yeah? The size of India's banking market is 1,20,000 crores. You would add another 20 lakh crores for NBFCs. And the amount in conflict is 3 lakh crores. The 3 NBFCs or maybe 4 have assets of 3 to lakh 4 crores. in also which 75% is going recoverable. So boss, there is such a big hulla being made of a loss of 1 lakh crore of assets. So why do you say fixed income is unsafe?
I think because it was always sold as a quasi deposit. I think that's where maybe it's.
No,
it's
but
a
the question is, it was your greed, no? Why did you invest? Why you are getting a AAA NBFC at 7%? You want to give a deposit to the other one at 8.5%? What discounting choice did you make? Why did you make a deposit in a bloody cooperative bank? Did you make your risk assessments? Why? Because they're giving you 2% extra interest and the gravy was continuing for 10 years. So you got to understand yourself that this is money, it involves responsibility.
I think it's the first time probably where Indians are recognizing the volatility of fixed income securities. It's often thought that fixed income means it's never going to change in its value, but that those are securities that have market value and they will go up and down. And I think it's the same way as the shares. In many ways, it's bringing a regular coupon, and that's all the difference is. Whereas the normal ordinary shares might bring an ordinary dividend, but it might be varying.
No, but for this country's development, it is very essential that we develop a fixed income market. And these banks, and the biggest problem is the kind of return the government is giving on all the EPF and all that. See, in this country, we have a big problem. Government wants banks to give loans at lower rates of interest. You look at the small savings, they're up 37% in the last 5 months. The only place where I put money in fixed income is like a public provident fund. I get 8.5% tax free. Where will I get that return? So it is that which is causing the bond market not to develop. And how do you develop long-term 10-year, 15-year money? But I think fixed income will develop with time.
It's an interesting situation that all superannuation funds in India can only invest in fixed income securities. They cannot invest in ordinary shares. Why? Why should that be the case? Why are we getting international financial institutions, including superannuation funds from abroad, to come and invest in Indian equities, but we do not allow our own superannuation funds to invest? That's a question.
I think if you just want to look at fixed income risk and return, in the near term, these risks may stare us in the face because there are surprises that we are not used to. But over long term, there is no doubt fixed income is less risky. So I won't think of fixed income as an extraordinary risk for people.
In I think the last decade, in India, we've seen a phenomenal growth of mutual funds as a vehicle for equity investment, especially through the systematic investment plans. Your view on whether that's the best route for a retail investor, how should the Indian market be looking at mutual fund growth?
I'm saying from 20 years, that the best way for the retail investor to invest is through SIPs. Because, see, basically in India, you're in a bull run, right? It's very difficult for a retail investor to time markets. So when you put money in a SIP, you are putting money at all stages of the market. Second thing is, my advice to the retail investors that, boss, they think this is the bloody race course. You know, I used to love to have a drink, still love to. I used to go to the Jeffrey's bar every day. So everybody will come at 8 o'clock, "Su lage che, bazaar mein su lage che." I said, "Abhi to su lage karke aaya, abhi chup baitho jara." But फिर कोई बहुत सुंदर करनी आके पूछेगी, "What should I buy?" तो उसको बोलते थे, "भाई XYZ, कितना बढ़ेगा?" I said, "It should double in 3 years." Bus. I said, "Here is the address of the Mahalakshmi race course." So, boss, this is not the race course. The attitude you have to have is that even debt you will get 6-7%. Even equity, which I think you get a 15 to 18% return, it's a very big difference with a tax benefit.
Frankly, for the average Indian investor, mutual funds is the way to go.
No, it's worldwide.
Of course, there should be variations of different mutual funds with different kind of profiles and risk profiles, etc., to match them. But this is the way to go. It's organized.
No, my advice to investors is don't get into all these, masala products and सीधा साधा दाल चावल खाओ और मजा करो. In the mutual funds also.
Low cost is the
In the
key.
mutual funds also. Don't get the attitude to advisory fund. Don't try to be over smart. Remember, Joe, everybody in the world gets market returns. So you have to be really smart or really lucky to get greater market returns. And those what difference it makes, boss, if I get a return of 16%, right, I will double my money in 4.5 years. If I get a return of 6%, I will double my money in 12 years. So this is the difference between 6 and 16. So बस मारवाड़ी की एटीट्यूड लो 16% मिलना चाहिए मुझे 18 नहीं चाहिए लेकिन 16 मिलना चाहिए. So that is the kind of attitude I think investors should have. But they think it's a race course.
If in London we can get 16%, तो हमारा काम हो गया पूरा.
In India, if I am great, I'm very happy. Yeah.
No, I would reiterate the same point. I mean, timing is exciting, but it's not as rewarding. So you have to play for the long term. There's enough growth. You have to play for long-term growth. And 15, 16% returns are, commonplace in India. And therefore, that's what you should aspire to. Keep your costs
And
low.
how I arrive also did 15, 16. Although there has not been corporate profit growth in the last 4 years, not much, about 10, 12%. I think India will grow nominally, according to me, between 11 and 13%. Right? And corporate profitability will grow at least 500 basis points higher than GDP growth. So if you have 17, 18% GDP long-term profit growth, right? Why will you not have 15, 18% price growth? And India is such an underinvested market. What he's saying is right. No investment by superannuation, not by very little by provident funds. Mutual fund maybe, why people invest equity? When I told my parents I want to go to the stock market, my mother said, who will marry you? Satta karte hai, share bazaar jayega, chartered accountant. So, that was the attitude towards the markets. Now that's changing.
I guess that is why you have a wife who's become a partner, huh?
Huh?
That is why you have a wife who became a partner of yours in equity.
I and she had no choice. No, शादी हो गई, 7 फेरे हो गए.
I think coming back to wealth creation and the fact that we've been speaking about various classes of assets, if amongst equity, real estate, fixed income, where do you think we should be putting our money today if we want to look at wealth creation?
हमको तो एक ही चीज आती है सर. It's because of the ease. See, today I can invest. Suppose I'm bullish in real estate. अभी आप जाओगे, जमीन खरीदोगे, उसका टाइटल ढूंढोगे, फिर उसमें कोई केस होएगा, 1000 लफड़े होंगे. इससे हम तो डीएलएफ के शेयर लेके बैठ जाओ. So I'm investing in real estate. No? So as a theory, because of the ease, because of the tax benefits, right? Fixed income हमारे पिताजी ने सिखाया नहीं. हम मारवाड़ी लेकिन खाली ब्याज भरते हैं, कमाते नहीं है. I act like a Muslim की ब्याज कमाना क्या बोलते हैं वो. So I invest only in equity. I think even the asset class of real estate is good. Fixed income is good. What is the investment commodities and foreign exchange? How can I invest in commodities here? मैं रखूंगा कहाँ उनको? And if you see, no commodity in the world in the last 50 years has had a secular bull. तो कहाँ रखूंगा, कहाँ store करूंगा? So I think there's nothing like investment commodities, my feeling. And what is the investment in foreign exchange here? I don't invest in a currency. I mean, I may put interest rate money in a, currency and put interest on that rate. But in India, we're not allowed to do that, and it's too difficult, too volatile. So equity.
So we are
I'm
very
sure
equity
you've been
oriented.
in real estate quite a lot. So
Yeah, so we are very equity oriented as well. And we move between public and private markets on a relative value basis. And we do structured credit in real estate. Now, I know structured credit in real estate has got a bad reputation because of all the blood that has been created. But I think if you do it intelligently, there is good return to be created. So we do it as a mix of income and back-ended equity options. And we've done well in that as well. And in our mix of assets, we've made anywhere from 15, 17% on the same logic that you're talking about in public markets, very passive investing. And we've generated alpha in private equity. Our average returns are closer to 25% over 15 years. And in structured credit, we are in the range of 17, 18%. So we've done.
See, there I want to say one thing, that for me, equity is also fixed income. Because when I first earned wealth in life, I started with 5,000 rupees. In 1985, I earned 25 lakhs. In 1988, I was worth 1 crore. And in 1991, I was worth 150 crores. In 1993, I was worth 250 crores. So when I first learned wealth, there was tax to be paid and there was an expense. Now dividends were there. So I realized one thing that, see, look at the Shah Nizam of Hyderabad. He was once the richest man of the world. But all his wealth absolutely diminished. Why? Because he had no cash flows. And he had to sell his assets for his living expenses. So I learned one thing in life, and my father taught me कि भैया बेटा खर्चा बनाना बहुत easy है, घटाना बहुत मुश्किल है, right? That you should not eat your principal. So from that time, my endeavor is to limit. I have 4 expenses: my office expense, my house expense, my charity, and my interest, right? This must be met from my dividend income. So मैं ऑफिस जाऊं या नहीं जाऊं, मैं काम करूं या नहीं करूं, मुझे अपनी प्रॉपर्टी नहीं बेचनी पड़ेगी जीने के लिए, right? And so you try to continue all these 4 items to your dividend income. So that way my dividend is my fixed income.
From my perspective as an international investor looking at India, whilst I agree that one should have a balanced view about where to invest, and that would include all the 3 sectors, but I certainly would be very wary about getting into real estate. I have launched 2 funds, promoted 2 funds for India. One I mentioned earlier, which is an equity fund that has done remarkably well. On the other hand, I launched a fund back in 2008 on real estate, and that had not performed. But the experience was terrible, where issues about title deeds, issues about permissions, authorities, people telling you something and they're lying to you, they mislead you, misrepresentation. All these experiences happen in real estate, and I think, with due respect to any property developers sitting here, many of them are crooks, right? No doubt about it. They're crooks and they mislead you. And until recently, it was surprising to me that they could use the depositors' money to continue building. I mean, how could you ever allow that to happen? But these are things that have been practices in India, and therefore I would stay away from that as an international investor.
I'm going to go to maybe some specific questions. So, Gauravji, to you, you've been a very avid investor in terms of venture capital, private equity. From that, which is a relatively new sector, if I would compare, and your experiences, what would you share with this audience in terms of what they should look to, and is that something that is a growth sector in the years to come?
Surely. So private equity has actually evolved into several different segments. We tend to play more in early stage business creation. There are growth niches everywhere. So Rakesh has just invested in an insurance company, which is growing at some obscene 40, 45% a year.
No, we're going 30, 35%.
So less obscene 30,
on a good
35% a year on a huge basis. So you have these unserved niches where even large companies are growing at 30, 35%. In smaller niches, you have businesses growing at 40% and so on. So if you can build a business, then valuations become less important. And I'm not talking of technology type plays and at that kind of esoteric risk. So a businessman went out and built the Fog brand of deodorant, and that company is now valued at 5,000 crores, right? It's an 8-year-old play.
Which one?
Winning Cosmetics. There have been several plays of that type. So I think one segment that we focus on is building out businesses.
No, but Gaurav, there has to be one realization. See, suppose I invested $200 million in Star Health, nearly 200 million. Now, a lot of this attitude of private equity and everybody is कि भगवान ने किया 7 साल में 1 billion हो गया. Right? No, hear me. Now, or suppose forget the Star, I made an investment in equity. Now, suppose I did very well and it went up 5 times in 2 years. Question is, people tend to sell. But after that, if the return can be 15%, what is the other asset which will give me this kind of a return? So I think that's where people make a lot of, see, you may have a lottery return in an investment. But after that, you have to examine, will it still continue at 15, 18% return?
That is where the issues
and
are.
on higher quantums of capital, it is today on my portfolio, if I get 18%, I'm a king. 18% means 4 years double. 8 years 4 times. 8 साल कैसे बीतते मालूम ही नहीं पड़ता. So I think that provides a lot of, maturity. और सब आपको बोलेंगे आप तो स्मार्ट इन्वेस्टर हो, आप तो पैसे का ये का मैजिक कर सकते हो. आप समझ लो अभी कि पुअर हाउस होने का टाइम आ गया. You got to also.
So we are not a fund in that sense. So we invest for longer periods of time. We don't have a pressure that 5 years have passed, let's exit and let's look for the new gig. We don't have that pressure, right? So we can invest with a 10-year view. Even in public markets, we invest with a 10-year view.
I'll come out to another point of view. For large investments, maybe people will not be interested. You look at the world today. I was in conference with lunch with an insurer today. Oh, he's a company, he's founded in 1834, but he's now owned by institutions, right? So why can't I own 10% in 20 companies and keep it? I may not be an institution, I may not have that kind of money. So my idea would be to manage an office where I make good investments and just keep them.
So we do early stage private equity, and on a relative value basis, we also do public markets. And we tend to invest, as he's saying, for the long term. We don't have a 3 to 5 to 7 year cycle. If it's 3 to 5 to 7 years by coincidence, that's fine. We're happy to own for 10 years, 15 years. If you look at people who have actually made money in India, people who've had local decision making have done better than people who've tried to make their decisions from Hong Kong or here or there. Right? Because there's a lot of nuanced investing that needs to be done, especially when public data is not available. If it's a private
there were investment committees who know nothing. There were fund managers in Hong Kong. There were already investment managers in America, the investment committee in America. The investment committee knows nothing, then they come to India and they reject all kind of investments.
Thirdly, we invest in a counter-cyclical basis, right? So as it is often said, buy to the sound of cannons, sell to the sound of drums, you know? So you've got to be able to have the courage to be somewhat counter-cyclical in your attitude. So we employ these characteristics.
Subhaji's question specifically to you. You've been a long-term investor into Bharat from overseas. And India has had this sort of love-hate relationship. You know, we allow FPIs, we disallow them, we ask them to invest in ODIs, we disallow that, then we give them tax stops, then we do something else. As a 20-plus year investor into this country, what do you like about this market? What do you don't like about this market? And what would you like to see going forward in this market?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I continue to be very bullish about Bharat and what it's going to give to the investor in the medium long term. Short term, we are always going to see fluctuations occurring. Volatility of Indian market is always there when we compare with other markets. And one has to accept that as a reality of how this market, and the volatility comes from this international money coming and going back, coming and going back. There's quite a lot of money waiting now to come back into India, and when the climate is not so good, it's going to go back. But I think there's a good phenomenon that's taking place, which my fellow panelists might agree, is that there is now a fair degree of local money, Indian money coming into the market, which had stopped for a while, and now it is coming in. So there is a good, reasonable balancing activity taking place. But in the long term, I see in India, with this present government that we have, with the vision that they have, the decisiveness that they are going through, which is spectacular. I mean, there's no question about that in my mind, that they are going to make the changes. I was looking at the Transparency Index of India. Out of 176 countries that are assessed, this is a measure of corruption for those of you who may not be aware. India stands 78 today. So, I mean, we're now getting 50% or so there. UK, just by comparison, is 11. US is 22. And South Africa is still ahead of India on this basis, despite the fact that we hear a lot about corruption there. So, but I think there's a lot going for India. Digitization, the young millennial population and how they're adapting to things, and how the likes of Amazon are now seeing India as the main growth area for them. I think and Indians have got a tremendous ability to innovate. I mean, the whole experience of ISRO and what is happening with landing on the moon and so on, I think that shows the ability that Indians have. Again, there's a lot of defense manufacturing that is going to happen in India. So the activity level, in my mind, is really, really good. and potential remains there, and therefore one can only take a ride with that growth.
Rakesh ji,
I can go on speaking in half an hour on this topic, but see, one thing I want to tell you. If you look at the characteristics of societies who have, and it's not my opinion, who have achieved prosperity and retained it, right? The first thing is they have a skillful people, right? And I think the Indians are among the most skillful people in the world. And it's not only with the NRIs. We did not steal the technology for a nuclear bomb, and we did not sell it to anybody. I don't know how many of y'all have read the story of the Mars mission. It was unbelievable, the cost at which we have done it and what we have done. The biggest community of doctors in America are Indians. So Indian skills, Indians are most, I'll take a lot of time for this, Indians are most prone to diabetes. So they've done research in Fiji, in Mauritius, where Indians are half 1% by origin. They found there also they are prone to diabetes. So they said Indian genes are prone to diabetes. So boss, if Indians are so successful abroad, they are so skillful, you have one as CEO of Microsoft, one as CEO of Google, right? Their genes are not unique, it's all our genes. So Indians are skilled people, there's no question about it, right? So we have the skills. No country in the world has retained democracy, has retained prosperity without democracy. We have a deeply ingrained democracy, although it slows us down. But we have a deeply ingrained democracy, right? We have natural resources. Every society achieves its biggest prosperity in the most favorable period of its demographic evolution. India is entering the period of its most favorable demographic period until 2050. 25% of the people below the age of 25 in the world live in India. 25% of the people below the age of 25 live in India, sir. Right? We have a government and a prime minister who, I have predicted earlier on NDTV that to get this 5 trillion, this government carries, and I have no contact with anybody, carries no ism. This government is going to do whether sale of public sector or limitation of subsidies or increase in taxes or reduction in taxes. Whatever they think is required for this $5 trillion economy will be done in terms of economic policy. That's my judgment, right? Adam Smith said that you just create the conditions where the abilities of the people can flow. Hear me out. That is what this government is attempting. That is the ease of doing business. और पहले क्या था कि जिसके पास पैसा था चलता है, कर लेंगे, करा लेंगे, बना लेंगे, पटा लेंगे, सर वो सब बदल गया है। अब ये हिंदुस्तान बदल गया है। अभी जरा लॉ पढ़ना पड़ेगा। जो समझ रहे हैं, जो चेंज आ रहा है, and do you know what the effect of integrity will be? You see the difference in the valuation of companies who have integrity on the market and of the companies who don't have integrity. That's going to happen to this country.
But
I think people are not understanding the change this country is going to go through with programs like Nal Mein Jal. 40% of infectious disease in India is carried through water. If every Indian can get water by the tap, I will die a happy man. That can be nothing better for my fellow Indians.
But Rakesh ji, one point, the youth unemployment in India.
Sir, the only cure,
how do you explain
मेरे
it?
को आपके से बोलता हूँ, मैं बॉम्बे में आपको 50,000 रुपए की पगार दिलाता हूँ, ड्राइवर मुझे बुला दो जो गाड़ी चलाता है मेरा.
फिर भी क्यों unemployment?
The problem in jobs is people want white collar jobs. Plumber नहीं मिलता है, electrician नहीं मिलता है, bricklayer नहीं मिलता है. This is all press blowing it and we accepting.
No, but the reality is.
But the reality is you don't get a driver in Bombay.
Yeah, this is
तो आप
Bombay.
काम करो तो job मिलेगा ना?
No, this is Mumbai. But look elsewhere. Look at the whole country. There is a real problem.
Sir,
Youths are not getting the jobs.
Yeah, because they want white collar jobs. The
Whatever
question
it is,
we have to
whatever it is,
and I agree there are challenges.
these people are
But
spending a lot.
but the problem of social welfare,
No, these
the
people are.
problem of employment, sir, the only solution is growth.
No,
You have growth,
but
you will have jobs.
last 10 years you've had growth, but why have we got unemployment? Because we've got a huge amount of unemployment.
Anyway, let's
People
agree.
are graduating
Let's
from
agree to-
universities.
let's
They
agree.
they get the skills. Why
Mr.
are they
Thakkar,
not
let's
matching?
let's agree to disagree. I feel that if you have growth, we'll create the jobs, right? Then, therefore, I see no reason why people are underestimating the ability of this country to achieve if you create the ease of doing business. And we have no choice but to do second generation reforms. If we want to go to, let me finish, go to 9% growth. And if we have 9% growth, I'm not saying this as a patriotic Indian, I'm saying this as an investor.
But-
I am recognizing this as an investor. If this happens, corporate profit in India will grow 15 to 18%, not 12%, and Indian nominal GDP growth will be 12 to 13%, earnings will grow. And we have 30% household savings. What is underexposure to equity? What is bloody $20 trillion coming to the stock market? This has to go to 200 trillion.
When there is
Right. So there is growth.
when there is future
There is
growth,
growth. There is
when
growth.
there is
There is growth and there is
Rakeshji.
no money. Please let me complete.
well, I've allowed you. I allowed you to speak.
You please speak after I speak.
But I mean, I've allowed you so
So you
long.
argue after that, no? I hear you out.
I also allowed
But
you
I'm
to speak.
saying, and we don't need these foreigners' money. We have enough money. If they want to invest, let them come.
Of course,
We
you
don't
need
want to give
foreigners'
them any
money.
special
Of course, you need foreigners' money. It's been
Right.
coming, and India has been enjoying that for some
Yeah, so
time.
don't come if you don't want to. If you're
No,
better
no, but,
you launch a Pakistan fund if you want.
Rakeshji, can you just take this to the next
Who's
question?
saying no? Go to invest in Pakistan.
Let me just
So what
ask a
I'm
different
saying is-
question, sir.
In that way,
What
I'm a
I'm saying
patriotic
is-
Indian.
Can I just ask a different question, maybe?
Let me finish, Mugam.
Now he's getting more time than anybody else.
I am saying India is going to grow. This government is going to facilitate it. Integrity is prevailing in this country. Right? People understand the difference of that. First, there were non-equity projects. 1000 crore का project, 400 crore की equity, 500 crore की overbilling. अभी लगा के दिखाओ तुम. What will be the effect on the country? So I am saying people are underestimating what's going to happen in this country. There's going to be growth. You see 22, 23, 21, 22. You'll see 8, 9% growth. Don't go with these fear mongers. ये गाड़ी नहीं बिकता है, ये नहीं बिकता है, वो नहीं बिकता है. Last month only 4% retail growth of cars was less. So there will be earnings growth. There will be flow of money. शेयर बाजार में नहीं लगाएंगे तो लगाएंगे कहाँ? 85 में तो मम्मी बोलती थी शादी कौन करेगा तेरे से? 91 में सब जवाई ढूंढते थे शेयर बाजार में. ऐसे ही होगा. So question is, why do you feel the best of this country is still to come? It's my opinion, I can be wrong. But I have the right to put, I'm not managing anybody's money. So I have the right to put my money where my mouth is here. If I lose it, I lose it. This is my opinion. This country has seen nothing yet in terms of growth. And I'm telling you, these gloom and doomers, they'll lose opportunity.
So, can I ask a different question, sir?
Please.
I think it's always nice to hear success stories, but in your long journey of investment, can I ask each one of you to tell us, if you can, some failure of investment which you thought taught you the most? And I can start with any one of you. Garuji, maybe you can start.
What some? I have had so many failures. गांव समझते हैं हम शाने हमको मालूम है हम क्या है. So the question is that where I made an investment in a company called Tata Press. They were the best, biggest publishers of special interest magazines. I mean, it was an emotion. I mean, I don't know how I last sold those shares. But I get emotionally involved. I made an investment company called Hindustan Oil. It was the first oil exploration company in the world, in India. And I sold my investment 15 years later at a price lower than which I had bought. So see, I have made many mistakes in life. I'm not afraid to make a mistake. I only want to make one which I can afford. So I may live to make another one. So mistakes तो बहुत करी है. but एक ही चीज है कि see, the quest to learn is a journey. It's not a destination. So I want to learn with every mistake. And if I'm afraid to make a mistake beyond a point, then I'll be paralyzed. I won't take any decisions.
We've been investing over the last 25 years, and we've made mistakes like anybody does. We've had two common themes in our errors of judgment. One is where we've made investments thinking that if we don't do this, we'll lose something big. Those are very euphoric times typically, when you disregard due diligence, when you disregard certain valuation metrics, and you somehow are desperate to do a deal or make an investment. So that's been one theme common to some of the mistakes that we've made. A second theme, which is common to the mistakes that we've made, are you've got a good asset, good location, good plant, good business, but not so good management. And we've been seduced by the asset and not paid enough attention to the quality of management. And in the end, the quality of management has taken away from the asset rather than added to the asset. So these are two themes I think investors need to watch out for. We've learned the hard way that these have haunted us.
We all make mistakes, and I have made mistakes. And I guess one of the areas that, particularly in investing in India, that I've experienced is when you talk to experts, they make an opinion, they give you a piece of advice. I would love to be able to look back and say, well, I shouldn't have taken that advice. So it does turn out that sometimes the experiences are not good in that sense, but one learns from this. But otherwise, I think overall it's relative. Mistakes are relative. Overall, if you do well and the odd mistakes come in between, then that's great life.
Great. So as we are sort of coming a little close to the end of the session, and maybe we'll have some time for questions. I'm just looking for somebody here to guide me. So whether we have mics around and maybe a couple of questions.
I have all the time in the world.
So and just one request, if you can be very specific and get to your question and not have anything else.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, namaste, and good evening to the panelists. This is Narendra from Prodigy Recruitment and Consulting. We predominantly specialize in BFSI hiring, and we do insurance leadership hiring. Before coming, my question to our favorite Rakesh ji, I wanted to emphasize on the point which has been clarified.
Can I request you that, if you can come straight to the question, sir?
I'm just coming. I'm just coming.
My apologies, but we're running out of time. A lot of people want to ask questions.
Correct.
So straight to your question.
Yeah, so I'll come to the question, Rakesh ji. Rakesh ji, you have been one of the investors in the insurance company. My question to you is, what do you see the future of industry looking at these retail penetration, and there has been some exit in the insurance industry. So how do you foresee in terms of long-term investment of insurance industry?
I feel health insurance, I don't know about the others. I think health insurance will grow for 15 to 20% for the next 10 years.
Thank you, sir.
That is the level of under-penetration in this country.
But sir, so there has been some companies who have their IPOs coming up even last year. Some of them stocks are not doing well as per the market expectation. So how do you perceive all this?
I cannot comment on company wise. You asked me about the industry, I told you about the industry.
Thank you, sir.
A question. See, in the markets, we have seen or been hearing about disruption. So आगे disruption का मतलब होता था market में disruption है. इराक ने कुवैत पे चढ़ाई कर दी, market में disruption आ गया, market टूट गया. So ये disruptions तो हमारे life में रहेंगे. अब technology का एक disruption नया आ गया है. That we hear about technology disruption.
I think it's overblown. We have discounted the change far greater and in far faster a period than it's going to actually take place. क्या टेस्ला है, सब गाड़ियां बंद हो जाएगी, टेस्ला बंद हो गई, गाड़ियां बंद होगी, मालूम नहीं है. और नेटफ्लिक्स है, टीवी व्यूइंग बंद हो जाएगी. So I think we have not that change will not take place. Change will take place, but it will not at the pace at which we get excited and expect it to take change.
So, for investors like us, how do we manage these two type of changes? Change in technology.
Invest with
driving-
good equity fund managers.
there's
No,
some
because
times.
I'm telling you very simply, boss, because it's too complicated a business for you to assess until you're a full-time professional investor.
No, even as a professional, I'm a professional. Even as a professional, I'm kind of getting little jittery about how the change in
Excuse me, do you have
technology.
That's a
Can
very
you just
long
move to the
topic.
next question?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Can you hand over the mic
Yeah,
here, please?
here it is.
Okay. So is there somebody on that call?
Uh,
Okay.
एक चीज समझनी थी, जैसे आपने बोला ड्राइवर नहीं मिल रहा है, वो बात सही है. ऐसे हम इंडस्ट्रीज में भी फेस कर रहे हैं कि वर्कर्स की प्रॉब्लम है, स्टाफ का प्रॉब्लम है, और अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट का सुन रहे हैं, तो उसका सॉल्यूशन क्या होना चाहिए? एंड सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज दैट auto industries is going down worst, and there are some drastic changes in electrical and BS6 engineering. What do you think auto industries will go in future?
I think auto industry India is just starting, it will grow. The problem is actually true in the HCVs. Because there what happened because of GST, the turnaround trucks of cars, turnaround time of trucks has gone up by 15 to 20%. कि जो गाड़ी मद्रास 7 दिन में जाती थी वो 5 दिन में पहुंचती है. सेकेंड थिंग इज आपने 10 टन गाड़ी से 15 टन का अलाउ कर दिया तो आपने ओवरलोडिंग अलाउ कर, तो यू क्रिएटेड 40% एक्स्ट्रा कैपेसिटी. Car sales is not as bad. Tractor is not as bad, I think. And as far as workers are thinking, I think what we need to develop is skilling. Also, what we need to develop is a work culture. मैं क्या देखता हूँ, मैं मुंबई में 16 घंटे काम कर रहा हूँ. मैं नागपुर में जाऊंगा तो 12:30 बजे लंच टाइम है, तो नहीं बोला मैं 12:30 बजे खाना. So you got to develop a culture of work where work has to be given importance. So I think skilling and work culture.
Rakesh bhai, I can very well understand that why you were so emotional and why you made money in India, because you're so bullish and patriotic about India. So I think a very big round of applause to you.
I don't mix my business with my patriotism.
But sir, emotional.
No, I am not bullish on India because I'm patriotic.
Absolutely.
I am bullish on India because that is what I see as reality.
But sir, your statement is for us, patthar ki lakir. So we investors take it that way, sir. So thank you so much about it. Sir, one thing, everyone is talking about technicalities, markets, this, that. 50% of the population is women. Other than SIP, what women should do? And secondly, sir, markets.
Why should women be different? They should be equal.
Sir,
markets
are.
No, I tell my wife, when you want to be rightful, have equal rights in everything, why you should talk of women?
Sir, markets are not unpredictable like women, but women are so stable, long-term, cool, calm. They will really add to equity markets, sir. So what is your piece of advice for all those women?
So see, equity markets, regardless of your gender, they can't be taught.
Absolutely, sir.
Regardless of gender, it can't be taught. It has to be learned.
So, but the fact is, women is not coming in equity markets. So please, one piece of your advice.
My daughter is there. Why should I take her to the equity markets? I want every human to do what he or she enjoys. So I can tell you one thing. Women are smarter managers.
Thank you so much. I wanted to listen that, sir. Thank you so much.
Smarter financial managers and more hardworking than men.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
That's my experience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I am Dr. Bhatt, sir. Maybe I have some out of context understanding, but I was expecting prosperity and not the profit. What today's discussion was making profit only.
But profit is a part to prosperity, no? Either my father-in-law gives to me, so then I'll be prosperous.
Sorry. If we will not invest on R&D, if we will not invest on studies, if we will not invest on infrastructure development, where there is no profit always, how development or prosperity is possible?
But that was not the discussion. It was investment by individuals. It was not investment by the state, not investment by organizations. R&D we will done by organization. I do R&D on stocks.
Doctor sir, I think Rakesh ji pointed out, the session was focusing more for wealth creation, I think, and that's for wealth creation for all of us. What you're talking of is probably investment which the society or the government has to make, and it's a different topic.
I want to add one thing. Over long periods of time, the stock market is a reflection of economic prosperity. Over long periods of time. In the short term, it may deviate, it may overshoot, it may underperform. But if the stock market has done well over 20 years...
हम कमाएंगे तो दाम देंगे ना. वो पूछना था आपको कि आप लोग प्रॉस्पेरिटी की बात करते हो, दाम देने की नहीं बात. मेरे पिताजी मुझे बोलते थे, हमेशा कमाने की बात करते हैं, देने की बात नहीं करते. So you should ask that question.
I think, let me just shift the audience. So maybe I have a question from that end. Is there a mic there? Till then, okay, can we get the question from here and then there? Yeah, please.
It is true that drivers, you may not get the drivers at the cost salary of 50,000. It may be true, but what about the engineering graduates and MBS? They are available at 15,000 rupees.
But the question is, people want to do white collar jobs, no? They are not available. You please do the job. What is available, no? What I said is there is a shortage of white collar jobs. There's a lot of हाथ से काम करो. सरदार जी है ना, वो हाथ से काम करते हैं. गाड़ी खराब होगी ना, वो खुद आके खोलेगा.
But this is where he's conveniently just answering the way he wants to answer. But really, you have to appreciate the unemployment problem exists. There is a mismatch. Yes, there is
unemployment
a guy
exists,
want to
and
work.
there is a no parallel plan for the economy by our finance ministry.
Okay, fair enough. But it is not to the extent to which it is made out to be. There is a problem. There is no question about it. Every society has it. There is no society in the world with 100% employment. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, the gentleman here.
Sir, can I have
Okay.
just one second?
So can you share with us what is you emphasize a lot on reading. So what is your daily reading habit like, and are there any unconventional publications you tend to follow?
I read The Economist, the India Today, because Economists tell me what's happening in the world and the longer term trends. The India Today tells me what happens in India, right? And I've got a group of 30, 40 friends. All the interesting articles we come across, we exchange. And then I read company reports. I very much read all of what you all of you read.
Well, I read The Economist. I think we all suffer from information overload. So actually, I tend to read what is relevant. There are a lot of unsubstantiated opinions that float around as intellectual pieces. So I try to avoid those. And I think long-term perspective, we get a lot from behavioral economics, from political economy. And I tend to read books on those topics.
देख सर बिहेवियरल इकोनॉमिक्स है ना, क्या होता है कि कॉकटेल पार्टी में जाओ शाम को और बाजार बढ़े और कोई बात नहीं हुए तो मतलब क्या है, सब कोई तेजी वेजी में नहीं है, कोई पब्लिक आने वाली है. And you go to a party and every pretty girl comes and asks you what stock to buy. Suddenly now we top.
Okay, so I think we are absolutely out of time here. And the one thing I'll add to the reading habits: if the Economist sees a lot of great sales, they should pay commission to the WHEF for this program today. But on that, two questions: one to the gentleman there, and one to the gentleman here, and then we'll close because we are absolutely out of time.
My question to Rakesh ji. Rakesh ji, recently the government of India has reduced the taxes substantially. So do you think that will bring FDI to India and only to the stock market, or it will also go into the manufacturing sector as well?
It will go to the manufacturing sector. See, what will bring, you understand one thing, sir. You know, there's $15 trillion in Europe on which the banks are paying 0.5% negative rate. So to keep $15 trillion, they're paying $75 billion the bank is paying to the central bank. And there is prediction of negative interest rates in America. A pension fund has to give a return to a pensioner, no? Negative interest rate में करेंगे क्या? हिंदुस्तान नहीं आएंगे तो जाएंगे कहाँ? With negative interest rate, which is the investable country in the world?
Thank you.
If I can give a 8% return on a road project with 3% interest, 5% real rate of return, I think billions, trillions of dollars will come. We'll not have time to build roads. NHA will get so much money. But the question is, we have to have ease of doing business. We have to see that our contracts are honored, which is what this government is trying to do. Right? You think of a negative interest rates, there'll be some $50 trillion of bloody pension fund money. Where will they go?
Sir,
Right,
all three panelists, with due respects, you people have explained what is nothing but individual wealth. How do you make it with your own experiences? Good. My question is, how can we create social wealth? That's the order of the day. Thank you.
We can create social wealth through growth.
Absolutely, sir.
Because
all three
create,
panelists, in one word.
To create social wealth, you need money. To legitimately need money, you need taxes. For taxes, you need growth. And this government is quite aware. One big achievement is that the way in which the welfare money is being spent.
All three panelists.
That's my point of view. Growth is the only criteria.
I would agree. Social wealth is ultimately a byproduct of economic prosperity. You've seen this in the United States, you've seen this in Korea, you've seen this in Vietnam, you're seeing it in China and so on. And you can see that in India as well. Look at the amount of giving that is happening. Forget government spending. Look at philanthropy. First generation entrepreneurs in India are giving pretty much like first generation entrepreneurs in the United States. So social wealth through government spending and private spending is happening.
Sir, I'll give a very interesting, sorry for interrupting, example. Which are the most prosperous societies in the world? Which are the richest countries of the world, highest per capita? The Scandinavian world. Who has the highest rate of tax? The Scandinavian world. And who has the highest rate of social welfare? Scandinavian world. So if you have growth, society will ensure that the benefits of that growth trickle down.
I agree that you've got to create wealth first to be able to allow. But however, I think we heard this morning Swamiji talking about creating wealth and how it needs to be harnessed and organized to be able to create social welfare. And I think you cannot just stop at creating wealth, but there need to be systems and mechanisms to allow some of that wealth to pass down for social projects and so on. And that needs to be worked on. And I think the Bhagavad Gita is very clear on that, and we should be really following that principle.
You know, Modi is a socialist, but he's a distilled socialist. A socialist is one who fights for a share of the cake. He says everybody should have equal share. Modi ji realizes, पहले cake तो बड़ा बनाओ, फिर share करेंगे उसको.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
that is his basic realization. He is the only prime minister who has, and Shastri ji, who have seen poverty. He knows what pain it is for a woman to cook food on a chula. Right? So sir, I think I'm 60 now. And अभी 5 साल की जिंदगी है, 10 साल की जिंदगी है, उसके बाद क्या है? Nobody is mortal. So when you start thinking of a mortality, I question myself, what am I doing all this for? Suppose I have some 100 crores more, what will I do with it? So, but if you bring prosperity, only then, अब मैं आपको बहुत छोटा example देता हूँ. मेरा रामू है. He stays away from his children for 11 months. He could never speak to them. एक टेलीफोन रेवोल्यूशन आया, रोज रात को फेस टाइम करता है अपनी वाइफ और बच्चे के. Has he not benefited by the telecom revolution? Imagine for 11 months he used to have no communication with his children and wife. Now he talks to them every day with FaceTime. He sees their face every day, talks to them. Is he not benefited? So I think prosperity is the only growth and growth.
On that note, I think the best way to conclude this session will be to give a humongous round of applause to my panelists. They've made this evening memorable. They've made this evening very lively. Thank you, Rakesh ji. Thank you, Gaurav ji. Thank you, Subhash ji. And thank you, WHEF, for organizing this. And with that, we take this session to an end.
Sorry for shouting too much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for such an exhilarating session. I think this is the one that woke everybody up after a lunch session. I'd love to thank each and every panelist on behalf of all the delegates present here. Now we'll take a break till 7 o'clock, and then we come back exactly at 7 p.m. for plenary session 2. And before we go away for the break, I would like everybody to be notified of the Chanakya app. You've been sent, each registered delegate must have received an email for downloading Chanakya app. That's where you can do discussions internally amongst all participants. You can put your queries, questions, job postings, job descriptions, investment requirements, and funding that you're interested in doing. Kindly download Chanakya app. You would have received an email if you've registered with your email address. If you haven't given your email address, kindly do so at the registration desk immediately so you can get an access to Chanakya app. It is based on Android and iOS, both the platforms. Everybody who hasn't downloaded Chanakya, I request you to download Chanakya app so you can make best use of the conference delegation and discussions and be part of it. Thank you. See you again at 7 p.m. for plenary session 2.
Withstood many challenges thrust upon it. In times where every empire around the world was eyeing to dominate the rich land of Bharatvarsh and threatening the very existence of the Hindu culture and community, heroes rose from the motherland. They bravely fought for their beloved land to keep its legacy alive, even at the cost of their own lives. Let's celebrate the spirit of these exceptional heroes that defended our sacred motherland and spiritual homeland. Acharya Chanakya is considered the master of political science and administration. Till date, his work in Kautilya Arthashastra has no parallels. He founded the Maurya Empire to unite and defend Bharat, becoming the Prime Minister himself and anointing Chandragupta Maurya to rise to power and become the first emperor of the Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya is the founder of one of the largest empires of the world, the Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya played a pivotal role in the unification and consolidation of Bharat after overthrowing the Nanda Empire and conquering the eastern provinces of Seleucus Nicetor's Greek Empire. He established the largest empire that would exist in Bharatvarsh. Vikramaditya is one of the greatest emperors from ancient Bharat who is characterized as an ideal king. He was known for his generosity, courage, and patronage of scholars. He established the Vikram Samvat in 57 BC era after he defeated the foreign invaders, the Sakas. Gautami Putra Satkarni was a military genius. He revived the Satvahana dynasty power after a decline caused by Saka invasions. In his reign, he defeated Sakas, Parthians, and Greek. Samudragupta united Bharat once he had conquered multiple empires. After successful conquest, he restored these empires to their respective rulers once they had accepted his sovereignty. Samudragupta defeated foreign invaders Han by stopping them from entering the borders of Bharat for as long as he lived and ruled. Yashodharma belonged to the Oligarch dynasty of Malwa. When Bharat came under Hunna attack towards late 5th and early 6th century, Yashodharma defeated the invaders and their ruler Mihirakula, driving them out of Bharat. Lalitaditya was a Chakravarti king, known for his extensive conquests and extraordinary valor. He is accepted as the most powerful king of his dynasty. He successfully defeated Arab, Turk, and Tatar. During his reign, Rajendra Chola extended the influence of the Chola Empire across the Hindu Mahasagar to the west, making the Chola Empire one of the most powerful empires of Bharat. His conquests included Maldives, Malaysia, southern Thailand, and Indonesia in Southeast Asia. Krishnadev Rai is regarded as an icon and the greatest king of Vijayanagar Samrajya, who defeated Bijapur and Adil Shahi. Vijayanagar became the bulwark against Islamic expansion in southern Bharat. Rani Durgavati distinguished herself as a valiant warrior and fought with unvarying success against Baz Bahadur, the Sultan of Malwa, defending her kingdom of Gondwana, present-day Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Maharana Pratap's defiance of the mighty Mughal Empire, almost alone and unaided by the other Hindu Rajput states, constitutes a glorious saga of Hindu valor and the spirit of self-sacrifice for cherished Hindu principles. Lachit Barphukan was known for his leadership in the 1671 Battle of Sarai Ghat that thwarted a drawn-out attempt by Mughal forces to enter northeast part of Bharat. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj carved out the Hindu Empire from the clutches of the Mughal and Adil Shahi Sultanate, raising the Hindu flag, which later weakened the Islamic rule over Bharat. Shivaji was formally crowned Chhatrapati in 1674. Guru Gobind Singh was the 10th Sikh Guru, a spiritual master, warrior, poet, and philosopher. He founded Khalsa in 1699 and played a key role in defiance against Mughals. Rani Lakshmi Bai became a symbol of resistance to the British Raj and was a key member of the first independence movement of 1857. She convinced the leader of the independence movement that the British could be defeated. Similar to these valiant and remarkable heroes, there are hundreds of other courageous and noteworthy brave women and men of Bharat who have fought, defended, and sacrificed their lives for the protection of sacred motherland and spiritual homeland. Let's take inspiration from these great heroes and carry their valiant legacy forward. Bharat, the epicenter of Hindu civilization, has withstood many challenges thrust upon it. In times where every empire around the world was eyeing to dominate the rich land of Bharatvarsh and threatening the very existence of the Hindu culture and community.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Heroes rose from the motherland.
Namaste
They
everyone.
bravely fought for their beloved land to keep its legacy alive.
Namaste everyone. It's 7 o'clock and I request everyone to come back in the main hall for plenary session 2. And while people come and take their seats back, I would like to set a reminder that there are 2 bags missing. Please check your bag. In case you have a bag with an iPad and an envelope of books that is not yours, kindly bring it to the main stage. I repeat, if you find a bag with you which is not yours, which has an iPad, you can just open up all your bags and check once, because all the bags on the exterior look alike. You're not likely to find it otherwise. Please look into your bags and check if that bag is really yours or not. In case you have somebody else's bag with you by mistake, please leave it near the stage so we can give it to its rightful owner. If you haven't received any bag of yours, we can get it from the reception. Kindly do not pick a bag here and there, assuming it doesn't belong to anyone. I request all our delegates to come back to the main hall and get seated so we can begin our session. Is it? Last side? There are quite a few bags on the extreme right corner towards the gate, exit gate. Those whose bags are missing, kindly go and check those bags. If one of those is yours, it will be helpful. Extreme right corner towards the exit. Please check, there are quite a few bags that are left unattended. If you have lost your bag, yours could be right there. 7 o'clock, we are ready for our plenary session 2. I request everybody to be seated back in the main hall. I request our panelists also to come towards the front. Shri Vijay Kumar Yadav ji, Professor Mahindran Nair ji, and Shri Andreas Varas ji. I request our panelists for the third session to come, for the second session, to come closer to the stage. Yeah, only 2. Shri Vijay Kumar Yadav ji, is he with us? Mahindran Nair ji? Okay. Okay. We are beginning our session 2 for the day. I request all the delegates to be seated. Please maintain the decorum of the hall. Kindly do not stand in the hallway and in the groups. I'm requesting all the delegates standing outside in the hallway to please get back to their seats. This is going to be our last session and a very interesting one. I do not want you to miss anything. It's on global perspective and economies. Right after the session, we will have a networking dinner. So I request all our delegates to network during the networking dinner. And don't miss this opportunity. If you delay your seating, we would miss some interesting time out here. For the benefit of everyone, I request all of you to be seated on your seats in the main hall. Can I request our volunteers and organizers to usher people inside to take a seat? I see a lot of people standing outside. Can I request you all to be seated, please? Our panel is here set for a discussion. I request all our delegates to kindly take a seat. I see some people standing there. संजीव जी थोड़ा बोलो ना बैठेंगे खड़े हैं उधर साइड साइड में Volunteers from the event, kindly just remind everyone we are well past 7 p.m. We need to be seated for session. People who are standing at the back, can you please quickly take a seat? There would be a good allotted time for networking at networking dinner. I request you to not network right now. This is the time for a session. We are getting late for a session. I would request everyone to be seated so that those who are seated are not disrespected. Those who are standing behind can come forward and take the seats in the front rows. We are beginning in 2 minutes. May I please request for Sanjeev Malhotra ji to come towards the stage? Mr. Sanjeev Malhotra.
Namaste. I welcome you all to the plenary session 2 of the day. I would like to introduce you all to Shri Manoj Motwani ji, who will be chairing this session. Dr. Manoj Motwani, he is a founder of MAP Asia Pacific Limited in 2010, which acts as trusted advisor and counselor to many business and institutions in the Asia Pacific, Europe and USA. He serves both private and public-owned companies. He helps companies in exploring extraordinary opportunities, manage and sustain growth, and maximize revenue in the areas of sourcing, brand development, and distribution by making strategic alliances, acquisitions. MAP also assists the corporate to set up their presence in Hong Kong region and advise them on the issues related to the legal, financial structure and strategies. I now request Shri Manoj Motwani ji to the session proceedings. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Now, very carefully look at me. I'm standing between you and your dinner. So please cooperate with me. We have 1 hour session and then we'll join everyone for the dinner. So we start. First, I introduce you, Shri Vijay Kumar Yadav ji, is Honorable Minister of Economic Affairs and Planning, Province 2, Janakpur Dham, Nepal. Shri Vijay Yadav ji is the Economic Affairs and Planning Minister for Province 2 and also the chairperson of Province 2, Samajwadi Party. He has responsibility of Treasury in Central Committee. He was the Member of Parliament of Nepal from 2007 to 2012. He was Minister of Industry, Commerce and Supply in the central government in 2011. He has a Bachelor of Engineering degree. I invite him to speak on business opportunities in Janakpur Dham, Nepal. Shri Bijay ji.
धन्यवाद। मैं आयोजकों से आवेदन है कि मैं अपनी बात हिंदी में रखना चाहता हूँ। खास करके नेपाल एक भूपृष्ठिक राष्ट्र है। संसार की सबसे ऊंची चोटियां हिमाल नेपाल में है। नेपाल 200 किलोमीटर चौड़ा वाले देश है। 200 किलोमीटर चौड़ाई है इसका, और 200 किलोमीटर में 7 प्रकार का मानसून है। संसार में शायद पहला ही देश नेपाल है जहां इतने कम डिस्टेंस में 7 प्रकार का मानसून है। पहला देश शायद नेपाल है। मैं इस गरिमामय इकोनॉमिक समिट के ऑनरेबल चेयरपर्सन, ऑनरेबल चीफ गेस्ट, डिस्टिंग्विश्ड गेस्ट एंड डेलीगेट्स एंड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, खास करके नेपाल, चाइना और भारत, तीनों का पॉलिटिकल सिनारियो देखा जाए, राजनीतिक अस्थिरता का बात तो एक ही समय में आया है। हम लोग भी नेपाल में विक्रम संवत 7 साल में प्रजातंत्र दिवस मनाते आ रहे हैं। डेमोक्रेसी इंडिपेंडेंट डे आप लोग मनाते हैं, इसी के सिरों पैरों में है चाइना, भारत और नेपाल। लेकिन नेपाल में अभी तक पॉलिटिकल सेटलमेंट पूर्ण रूपेण नहीं हुआ है। भरखर इस 3 तह के यहाँ पर सरकार काम कर रही है। एक पालिका की सरकार जिसको स्थानीय सरकार कहते हैं, एक प्रदेश सरकार और एक संघ की सरकार जो केंद्र की सरकार है। तीनों को निर्वाचन करा के अभी सेटलमेंट हुआ है 1-1.5 साल पहले, और पॉलिटिकल सेटलमेंट के तरफ है। राजनीतिक समस्या तो जब तक क्या कहते हैं संविधान चलते रहता है तब तक समस्या आते ही रहता है। जैसे चाइना में भी है, भारत में भी है, इस तरीके से नेपाल में। लेकिन हम नेपाली लोग बहुत ही लगभग 70 वर्ष पीछे चले गए यहाँ की समस्या से। इतना सुंदर देश, संसार के 200 किलोमीटर के भीतर में 7 प्रकार का मानसून हुआ देश क्यों गरीबी के रेखा मुनि है? बड़ा चिंता करते हैं बहुत आते हैं तो। लेकिन इस समस्या का समाधान खुद हम नेपाली करेंगे। आप लोग के माध्यम से, आप लगानीकर्ता के माध्यम से हम लोग सक्षम है। हम लोग वादा करते हैं कि आप लोग के माध्यम से इस गरीबी को हम लोग अंत करेंगे। इसीलिए मैं यहाँ पर आया हूँ। मैं कुछ अपनी बात रिपोर्ट करके लाया हूँ। टाइम भी यहाँ बहुत ही 10 मिनट का मिला है। नेपाल और संघीय नेपाल के प्रदेश दू जनकपुर धाम के नागरिकों के ओर से तथा प्रदेश के अर्थ मंत्री के रूप में अपने ओर से आप सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं। संघीय नेपाल के प्रदेश नंबर 2 के अर्थ मंत्री के रूप में यहाँ उपस्थित हूँ। लगभग 2 वर्ष पूर्व संघीय संरचना के स्थापना पश्चात देश में 7 प्रादेशिक संरचना निर्माण हुआ और लोकतांत्रिक पद्धति से निर्वाचित सरकारें स्थापित हुई। मैं प्रदेश नंबर 2 का अर्थ मंत्री के रूप में विगत 1.5 वर्षों से कार्य संपादन करते आ रहा हूं। संहिता और प्रादेशिक सरकार संचालन का हमारा अनुभव नया है, लेकिन प्राचीन मिथिला के हृदय स्थली और जगदम्बा जानकी के अवतरण भूमि प्रदेश नंबर 2 में व्यवसायी मैत्री वातावरण और शांति सुरक्षा के प्रत्याभूति पर्याप्त दक्ष एवं सस्ता श्रम शक्ति उपलब्ध के कारण इस प्रदेश में लगानी हेतु प्रशस्त संभावनाएं हैं। प्रदेश मंत्री परिषद कार्यकारिणी आदेश एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर पारित कर प्रदेश में लगानी करने वाले के लिए 20 वर्ष तक प्रादेशिक करों से मुक्त कराने का घोषणा कर चुकी है। व्यावसायिक प्रतिष्ठान एवं उद्योग स्थापना हेतु जमीन उपलब्ध कराने की घोषणा प्रदेश सरकार कर चुकी है और कंपनी रजिस्ट्रेशन संबंधी संपूर्ण प्रक्रिया एक द्वार प्रणाली के आधार पर 3 दिनों के भीतर पूरा करने की भी सरकारी नीतिगत निर्णय किया जा चुका है। 8 जिलों में विभाजित हमारे प्रदेश का प्रत्येक जिलों भारत के बिहार राज्य से जुड़ा हुआ है, जिसमें भारतीय भूमि से व्यापारिक संबंध विस्तार में भौगोलिक सहजता व्यावसायिक विकास का सकारात्मक आधार है। जनकपुर से बिहार के जयनगर तक ब्रॉड गेज रेलवे से जुड़ने के पश्चात संपूर्ण भारत नेटवर्क से जुड़ जाना हमारे व्यावसायिक प्रवर्धन का आधारशिला कायम हो चुका है। सामान्य भारतीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का हमारे प्रदेश के राजधानी जनकपुर में आगमन हुआ था और हम उनका भव्य स्वागत करने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ था। उन्होंने अपने यात्रा के क्रम में भारत और इस प्रदेश को व्यापार से जोड़ने की बात की थी। मां जानकी के जन्मस्थल में कुछ समय पहले उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री माननीय योगी आदित्यनाथ जी भी आए थे। उन्होंने भी हमारे व्यापार और सदियों से रहे बेटी रोटी का संबंध जोड़ने की बात की थी। यहाँ आए हुए आप सम्मानित महानुभावों को मां जानकी का दर्शन के लिए हम आपको सादर आमंत्रित करते हैं। लगानी वातावरण देने के लिए हम प्रतिबद्ध है। हमारे प्रदेश में कृषि क्षेत्र में प्रचुर संभावना है। हमारी भूमि उपजाऊ है। आम, धान, तरकारी के खेती लगायत फ्रूट प्रोसेसिंग के लिए वर्जिन लैंड है। भारत की हमारे प्रदेश में धार्मिक संस्कृति क्षेत्र में भी प्रशस्त संभावनाएं है। मां जानकी की जन्मभूमि की दर्शन के लिए हम लोग धार्मिक पर्यटन की रामायण सर्किट विकास के लिए सहकार कर सकते हैं। कतार, मलेशिया, अरबों से आने वाली रेमिटेंस काफी ज्यादा है। लोगों का आमदनी काफी बढ़ी हुई है, पर उनके पास उपभोग्य और शौक के चीजें खरीदने की सामग्री उपलब्ध नहीं है। फर्टिलाइजर, वैकल्पिक ऊर्जा, कृषि जन्य उद्योग, गाड़ी, बाइक, साइकिल की कंपनियां भी लगाई जा सकती है। इसका भी प्रशस्त संभावनाएं हैं। हम पर्यटन भ्रमण वर्ष 2020 मना रहे हैं। केंद्र शासित सरकार मना रहे हैं। आप आए, हम लोग स्वागत करने के लिए तैयार है। इस इकोनॉमिक समिट में हमें आमंत्रण किया गया और बोलने का अवसर प्राप्त हुआ। इसके लिए आयोजक को हृदय से धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। धन्यवाद।
Now, on the topic leapfrogging strategies in hyper-converged global economy, I would invite Professor Madhavan Nair. Professor Madhavan Nair is the Vice President of R&D, Monash University, Malaysia. Mahendran Nair, sorry. Professor Mahendran Nair is the Vice President, Research and Development at Monash University, Malaysia, and CEO of Monash Malaysia R&D S&D. He has extensive experience in international education and research leadership and has taught in Canada, and the Asia Pacific region. He has been a subject expert for government, agencies, public policy organizations, industry, and think tanks in Malaysia and in the Middle East. He's also leading a research team that is supporting the impact of science, technology, and innovation on economic development in emerging economies. He's a fellow CPA Australia and a fellow of Academy of Sciences Malaysia. Professor Nair.
Namaste, Swami Vijnananda, distinguished speakers and guests. Let me first take this opportunity to thank Swamiji and the organizers for inviting me to this important forum. Last year, Swamiji visited Malaysia and he specifically asked me if I could come and present in this forum, and I thank you very much, Swamiji. Today, I'm going to talk about an important topic that I've been giving lectures around the world. Can I get the slides? Okay. All right, so let me go back. So this is what the plan I want to do today. Quickly take you through the global trends. It's all data driven, and you'll see some interesting perspective of where India is. I want to talk about these new economy because there's a lot of discussion today, this morning, on what this economy is, the transition. We need to pin down what this economy is about so that we can start thinking about strategies. What are the challenges for many economies, particularly India? Where are the opportunities? We saw the earlier discussion among the investors, many different perspectives of where the economy is heading towards. And where are the touch points that we need to focus on, both from a policy perspective, from a corporate perspective, from educational institution perspective, the different stakeholders? And are there leapfrogging strategies? What are the preconditions for countries to leapfrog to this next stage of evolution? So this is what I want to cover. This chart tells you some of the major trends that are happening. There are 4 forces that are changing and transforming the economy globally. Globalization, liberalization, we have regionalization. We saw EU, and now there's a impending breakup, the Brexit, how that's impacting the economy. We saw ASEAN economies, North American free trade, all these are having a global impact. But we also saw digitization. There's a lot of discussion on the digital economy and how that's having a major impact. Although today the economists think there's a 5th force globally that is changing everything. It's called Trumpetization. This is President Trump, which is changing the whole landscape. So that's a different story completely. But what is happening is that the speed of transformation is moving really fast, that many economies, including the developed economies, are finding it hard to keep pace. So this is something well known, that creative destruction, we are starting to see changes that are happening. Big players are disappearing, smaller players emerging, big countries are diminishing, smaller economies are leading the wave. So this is happening globally, and what's driving this? Another important thing that we need to talk about in the vocabulary today is that we talked about growth and all those things, globalization. But today in the new vocabulary, we have to hear about AI and IoT and blockchain and, how many of y'all have heard about hackathons or bootstrapping companies that starts off single and then drive the whole supply network? These are new jargons that economists and policymakers need to incorporate into their vocabulary so that it become part and parcel of that policy formulation, strategy formulation. So this is happening. I was really excited earlier when I was in the forum with the startups. Some amazing things that are happening. These are bootstrap companies that have started off individually and have become more global. What's driving this DNA? So we have seen the different waves. I think this morning the speakers talk about Industrial Revolution 4. But we are starting to see that many economies, why a lot of developing countries are struggling with Industry 4. We did quite a lot of assessment in many emerging countries, and I think there was a question posed, where is these countries? We know that in some countries they are Industry 2.5. They're not even industry 3. So the point is, how do we enable them to leapfrog? And many economies are transitioning to the next phase of development, which is actually autonomous systems that are driving the economies. These are the traditional giants. You know, you had the SAPs and the Dells and IBM. But today we have these new economic powerhouses. You know, Grab is somewhat like the Uber. You know, they don't own any cars, but yet they, you know, drive the entire taxi environment. We saw Facebook, Airbnb. These are different business models that are completely disrupting the entire traditional value chain. So how do we cope with this? How do we look at this new realities? How do traditional firms survive in this market? These are started off as bootstrap firms. So what we are starting to see is that the traditional economics that we have studied in most of our economics 101 is that what is the factor of production, land, labor, and capital? But that's not anymore. We're starting to see information, ideas, and innovation that is driving this economy. That's what we call increasing returns. And I'll show you some curves in terms of what the increasing returns mean. It means you don't need to have a lot of land. You are moving from places to spaces. That is why we are starting to see countries like Singapore and Finland and the Scandinavian countries lead the wave. We don't need a lot of labor. You can outsource the labor globally. Small economies can outsource the labor. The same thing in financial market. There was a lot of discussion on finance earlier. Firms don't have to depend on financing within the domestic economy. They can tap into financing from the global market if they have a value proposition. So how do we look at these changes that are happening where the fundamentals of the economy is changing? So we're starting to see some important fundamentals that are coming to fruition in reality. A key building block for this new hyper-converged economy is the reach factor, the factor that facilitates connectivity. The people that are, you know, in the rural areas, connecting them to the global economy, giving them the reach to information, knowledge, getting them onto the information highway. But the other factors, this is necessary but not sufficient to drive growth. But the other factors are driver conditions. Some of the discussions this morning was intellectual capital. It is no more labor. Notice that the jargon is starting to change. Labor to human capital to intellectual capital. Interaction, smart partnership. So I've characterized this into 7 I's. First one is you have your physical infrastructure. Second one is infrastructure, your digital infrastructure. Third one is intellectual capital. Fourth one is interaction, smart partnerships and linkages. Fifth one is incentives, fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. So the earlier session was talking about all the fiscal incentives and what are the non-fiscal incentives that will bring in the FDIs, which we want to talk about. Institutions play a major role. Institutions of governance, from the political policymakers, standard boards, institution of learning, chambers of commerce, all these play a major role. I think one of the speakers earlier spoke about integrity. The governance is really, really important. Because if you want to draw in the best talent, best ideas, integrity is really important. And that's what drives innovation. So these are 7 I's. The nation is also another I called India. So how do we bring all this together to the next stage of evolution? So what we are seeing is that this ecosystem, the environment, is really important. There's a lot of discussion in environment. What is this environment? It's these building blocks that is giving this interconnectivity, that is drawing in this fusion and the vision of economic development. And we start seeing, I think earlier, these building blocks, and I'll show you some empirical data that shows that countries that build these building blocks are the ones driving innovation, productivity, wealth, and that is coming back to rechannel, to build back that ecosystem. And this is what sustainable development is. And this is where wealth, the whole question is that wealth is really important, but to draw that wealth, you need to build that ecosystem, and that is, and there's an important interrelationship between that. We're starting to see something really emerge. As countries build their ecosystem with all this fundamental, they are starting to build systems that integrate, that shorten supply networks. You have real-time assessments. So this is what the new economy is about. Real-time The supply networks are getting shorter. You see that cars used to come out 10 years, you can still drive the same cars. But today, almost every 2-3 years, new cars are coming. We're starting to see product cycles starting to disappear very, very quickly. So again, in that process, we're also starting to see the type of skill sets also change. I think earlier the discussion is that, unemployed graduates, there's jobs. But what is really happening is that the economies are transitioning. They're creating a lot more jobs, but they're creating jobs that are relevant to the new economy. So if institutions and students come out with, don't have the skill set, you're going to have massive unemployment. So there is an important issue with respect to, are institutions forward-looking, or are they preparing graduates for sunset industries? So these are the questions that we have. This is what a hyper-converged economy looks like, where factories that are integrated systems, they have multiple players all operating instantaneously across the globe. And what facilitates that is that ecosystem development. And as we started seeing, and I'll show you some data, which shows that as countries build those reach and richness factor, there's an evolution. Some are pace setters and others are followers. And this is imprinted at the national level, at the state level, at the corporate level, and at the individual level. How we build the ecosystem will determine your reach and the richness or in the value that you create. And this is what we see that a lot of countries are starting to appreciate and understand. And the whole idea is that as we build this ecosystem, is the movement linear? And we see that some countries, I'll give you an example. Look at South Korea. If I took a sample 10 years ago, if I asked you what mobile phones you have, probably 10 years ago, it's probably one of the European. But today, if I took a sample, who do you think will come out? Probably an Asian player, Probably, yes. We are starting to see new economies come on board. So how did they build this moving ahead? This is what the new economy enables you to do. If we get the ecosystem and the building blocks right, economies can leapfrog. We saw Korea come out of the war in the 1950s. Today, Korean companies are leading many of the technology fronts. We're starting to see China, Huawei, and others starting to really lead many of the technology spectrum. So if economies are able to build that resilient, agile, adaptable ecosystem, the 7 I's, we're starting to see them starting to fuse and gallop at a faster pace. I'll show you this chart. This is a very recent chart that shows that race. You see that the curve is actually showing that as the ecosystem becomes more and more stronger, the wealth increases at a faster pace. We mapped over 100 over countries. Bharat is there. It's moved. Actually, we looked at the longitudinal data. Bharat is moving. We have China there, and we have the United States. This is what, over the years, China has been doing. 2 major policies that are driving competitiveness and development in China. One is Made in China 2025. It is to lead a number of technology areas. And you know the story on the spectrum discussion of 5G. They are way ahead. We'll talk later about how they did it. The second one is that as they built their technology landscape and innovation, they started exporting it to other developing countries. This is what the Belt and Road Initiative is. So the question I have is that, what is India's strategy or Bharat's strategy? This is an example, a recent news clip. China is leading in a number of technology areas, outpacing US in the traditional industries, but using better technology. Textile, they're giving everybody a run for the money, not just textile, many industries. But that's because over the last 10 years of investing into that ecosystem development. The question we have is, what is Bharat's strategy? And I hope that this Hindu Economic Forum will actually lay the foundation for that development. And the interesting thing is data is showing that the signs are really good. This is the Bharat's economy in transition. We looked at India's Bharat's economy, and we are starting to say, and we forecasted what will happen over the next few years. Clearly, like every other economy, the economy is becoming more and more service sector driven. And service sector driven is knowledge and technology intensive economies. And you see that we predict by 2030, if I have that right, almost 61% will be service sector driven, which is cross-cutting knowledge and global industry. The question then is that how do we sustain this growth? What kind of ecosystem that we need? What are the challenges? We also mapped across different states in terms of technology adoption, talent development, wealth creation. It looks like really busy. Actually, we can now go down to every state and see what the state of play is. This is a better chart to see. We mapped in terms of technology and wealth. Clearly, the continuum is there. We see some leading the others, a few outliers like Kerala and others. But we are starting to see the trend that technology is going to be really important to drive talent and economic development. So what are the challenges for developing countries, including Bharat? There are a number of challenges. I think some of the speakers touched on this morning. Many of the developing countries are slow in investing. They're waiting for other developed countries to lead the wave. So the development of the national ecosystem is very slow. Low utilization of technology, though most of the technology software is developed in the home countries. Shortage of talent. Institutions are not keeping pace with the technological development. Issues of, partnerships are fairly patchy because the technology doesn't facilitate. A lot more competition as opposed to cooperation and institutional development. So this is, in all developing countries, we see this phenomena. Many of the technologies, a lot of great plans, but they are not coordinated. Innovation is, somebody has done something, we've got to do that. So everybody is trying to copy each other. So it's like knee-jerk reaction as opposed to more strategic on what are the 5 or 6 technology areas we are going to go in and what are the investment strategy that we're going to put in. Many economists in the developing world don't do this. Last 10 years, 20 years ago, Korea did this. That's why they lead many of the areas. China did this. So we're starting to see many of those institutional issues, cripple the ecosystem, though there are good building blocks. On talent, what is needed? Many of the graduates that come out are coming to sunset industries. You take 4 to 5 years doing mechanical engineering. With converging technology platform, what would a mechanical engineer of the future look like? They need to know good mechanical systems. They need to know biological systems because systems are integrating. They need to know better human systems. They need to know financial systems. So they need to have multidisciplinary skill sets, not only solid theoretical foundation, but also that will drive industry and development. They need to be able to test out things, not just rote learning, but really creative learning. And this is a massive agenda for many of the developing world. I think some of the discussions earlier alluded to this. The point is that we have a lot of institutions that are supplying graduates, but they can't find jobs. So what is the way forward? Clearly, I think sound institutional, political, and regulatory environment is very important. And we are starting to see that. And the great thing is that the present government seems to be moving in that direction. At least the sound bites are really good. Putting in business-friendly environment for innovation. We heard about the startups, some of the challenges that they've experienced. They can easily raise money overseas, but have difficulty raising money in their own countries. How do we make it more business-friendly? Better taxation systems, better fiscal incentives for them to drive innovation. High quality, access to high quality public services. When I mean high quality and affordable, because sometimes you don't have systems, people have to wait. That costs businesses. Skills, I talked about the skills, both balancing between STEM and non-STEM areas to integrate that, bringing in the behavioral component in. Increasing use of technology across the board in every community, in every state to get the multiplier effect. And that requires transformative leader, and it comes from the top. And this is what the signal that we are seeing in many countries, particularly here and other parts of the leadership understands this game and started to put in place systems to drive that. And that comes with good governance and better integrity systems. So this is a chart that we saw about a month ago with the 5 trillion. And we did our forecasting about a month and a half ago without knowing the 5 trillion. We did the simulation. Ours is about 4.7 trillion. So what would it take, Bharat, to move to that 5 trillion in a relatively short period of time, to leapfrog, catch up with other economies? It requires a commitment from the government, like what China had the 2025 strategy, like what Korea had that strategy. Really a committed drive and capturing the vision of people collectively, the corporate sector, institutions of learning. This is where we're going to go. We're going to pace set global innovation. These are the technology areas that we're going to drive and build that ecosystem around that visionary leadership. Visionary and transformative leaders are really important to drive that ecosystem. And that trickles down not just in developed state, but it has to come down to every state, helping the states to build that ecosystem, getting the technology, right technology, because the success of any country depends very much on a shared prosperity model and an inclusive development model that will lift the bottom 40% to the next stage of evolution and development. That increases the standard and the quality of living, both in terms of customers that are using those services, products, and with a massive market like in India, you see that the domestic economy is going to be an important pillar for driving the change. I want to leave you my last 7 seconds of this. Wealth is really important to drive, to overcome challenges, but that needs a well-curated ecosystem and a transformative leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Nair. A lot of research work has gone into this presentation. Thank you so much. Now I invite Shri Andreas Viras. He's a mayor of Larnaca, Cyprus. Shri Andreas Viras has been elected mayor of Larnaca. He is the chairman of the Union of Cyprus. Cyprus municipalities since February 2017. He worked with many organizations and agencies such as Ministry of Finance, Larnaca Cooperative Societies. He has a degree in banking and financial sector from the University of Cyprus at the Department of Business and Public Administration, and has a master degree in business administration from the Southampton University. He is the president of Youth Board of Cyprus. I invite Shri Andreas to speak about the business opportunities, business-friendly city of Larnaca, Cyprus.
Namaste, my friends. I really love this phrase because we have something similar in Greece. In Greece, in Cyprus, we say Namaste Dofili, which means about the same, that here are all friends. And really, when I heard Namaste, I say the two people from Bharat, people from Cyprus, when they want to express something, they say Namaste. And that's very good. I will start my presentation by saying a few words about me. As you heard before, I have finished business administration, the University of Cyprus. I have an MBA from University of Southampton. I have worked in a lot of institutions, Ministry of Finance, in the banking sector, but always my second love was dealing with public matters, being with people and try to help people. That's why in 2016, I have elected as a mayor of Larnaca and president of the Union of the Municipalities. And I'm very lucky person that I have it invited to this incredible country, to this great conference. And really always I have admired the Hindu culture, the Hindu influence to humanity. So thanks a lot that I am here and be with you. Relations between Cyprus and Bharat have been traditional, very close and friendly. Archbishop Makarios, the first president of Cyprus, has the highest respect for Mahatma Gandhi. It's worth recalling that the foundations of this long-standing and time-tested relationship had been laid by the first president of Republic of Cyprus and Prime Minister Nehru. They were among the pioneers of the non-alignment movement who realized the dreams and aspirations of their respective people for self-determination and nationhood. Through the years, Cyprus and Bharat have established a strong relation in many sectors such as trade, business, and they are really very good allies. Cyprus also supports Bharat's bid for a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. In 2018, a great event for our country was the visit of the president of Bharat. With this visit, it was established a stronger trade and business relationship. It's quite like that the agreements between the two nations will bear fruit for the next year to come. So, the first thing that I would like to show is, where is Cyprus? Cyprus is the third largest island in the Mediterranean. It has an area around 9,200 square kilometers and a population of 800,000 people. And as you can see, is located between three continents. We are between Europe, Africa, and Asia, and only 4 hours away from Bharat with a direct flight. Larnaca, as you can see in the map, is in the southeast part of Cyprus. We have is the third largest city and region in Cyprus. We are one of the 20 cities in the world that people is living in the same place for 4,000 years. People is living in Larnaca in the same city for 4,000 years, and that's our advantage. That's our history, except if we want to make some project in the city. Because when we want to make some project in the city, we have serious problem because every 100 meters you see a different phase of the history of the people. We are very uncrowded. We are, but we have also a lot of competitive advantage. We have a port. We have the international airport of Cyprus is in Larnaca. But first of all, our main competitive advantage is that we have 75 kilometers of a Mediterranean coastline. Larnaca is the place where past and present blend magically into a delightful mosaic of sun and culture. At the most critical turning point of our modern history, Larnaca is entering the next 2 years. Major infrastructure projects are on track for implementation, and then at the same time, a steady flow of foreign investment are coming in the city. Here you can see some pictures from the history of Larnaca from 5,000 before Christ until today. So why Larnaca is an ideal location for doing business? Larnaca is ideal because it's offering access to the Middle East and Gulf area. Lebanon, Syria, all the countries are just half an hour from Cyprus. It's Larnaca's and Cyprus' strategic location is the crossroads of 3 continents. Larnaca provides access to the EU marketplace with a population of nearly 500 million people. The Middle East and North Africa region, including the Gulf area, with a population of nearly 500 million people, can be easily accessed through Cyprus. Larnaca is a growing city. It's one of the fastest growing cities with great investment potential opportunities. We are in the beginning of significant investment to our infrastructure and the development of mega projects on the horizon, all of which will change the face of the city and provide the prospects of an even more exciting future. Before 3 years, we have started a new initiative called Larnaca Blue City. It was our new city strategy. Our main target was the transformation of the city into a regional blue economy, educational, training and research center, and the promotion of the integrated maritime policy of the EU in the area. As a result of this strategy, the University of Cyprus decided to build the Faculty of Marine Science and Technology in Larnaca to bring the Oceanographic Center and the Maritime Archaeological Research Laboratory in Larnaca. But our biggest success was that we have secured funding of 30 million euro from the EU program Horizon 2020 for the creation of a marine and maritime research innovation technology center of excellence. And already in our port, we have a person from Barat, a very good friend that owns a very big maritime company with base in Cyprus. This center will promote scientific and business excellence in blue economy sectors, which are crucial not only to Cypriot economy, to European economy and worldwide economy. In particular, it will encourage partnerships and synergies between academic and research institutions and business, contributing to infrastructure and human capital development in the Eastern Mediterranean region. One main infrastructure project that we have this time in Larnaca is Larnaca-Wantefrot regeneration. Since the 1960s, a part of Larnaca, as you can see, Larnaca beachfront, was the base of oil and gas facility of Cyprus. Now, with the decision of the government, the municipality, and the private companies, will remove all these facilities. They will go to a different place, and we are going to have available for investments 2.25 kilometers next to the city, next to the airport, a place next to one of the best beaches that we have in Larnaca, available for hotels, for universities, for any kind of investment that will help us a lot as a city. Here you can see some pictures, what is our new master plan that we have made with an Arab company from London. Another one main infrastructure project that we have is the Larnaca and Marina Port. Already our government is in discussion with a lot of different funds from all over the world for an investment around 1.2 billion that in our Marina Port will make the port bigger for hotels, for a new marina, and it will be a very attractive project because especially now in the Mediterranean, there is a lot of need for yachts, for making, for any kind of tourists. And of course, what the European Union help us is to taking funding and making our historic city center more beautiful with a lot of projects that are funded from the European Union. So now I would like to answer the question why Larnaca has to be preferred by the investors. The aim of Larnaca municipality is to develop the appropriate infrastructure within boundaries through which any investor can responsibly obtain up-to-date information regarding any license that must be acquired, the existing legal institutional framework that will govern investments, the tax and the legal system of Cyprus, and so forth. Factors that make Larnaca an attractive destination for businessmen and investors are first that we are a safe country, we have top infrastructure, we have maybe the most attractive taxation system in the European Union, we are an EU member state, we have skilled workforce, we are strategically located between EU, Asia, and Middle East, and as I said before, only 4 hours from Barat, and we have an excellent Mediterranean lifestyle. More than 50% of Cyprus trade is within the EU, and Cyprus is one of the fastest growing economies within the EU. Further, the economy business-friendly and tax-efficient framework is an asset. The attractive tax system of Cyprus, together with its EU accession, has helped Cyprus establish itself as an ideal holding company location in the EU. There are over 17,000 foreign companies, named international business companies, that currently use Cyprus. The Barat Cyprus double taxation avoidance agreement, effective since 1st of April 2017, is a step in the right direction. Cyprus was the 8th largest foreign direct investor country in Barat, with a total investment of $8.33 billion in 2015-2016. There are further opportunities for investments in the construction, downstream processing of petroleum and agro-based products, as well as in maritime management service in Barat. Our shipping. The maritime industry has been one of Cyprus' most successful export services within the island, considered one of the top global hubs for ship owning and ship management service. Furthermore, our integrated marine cluster comprised of companies involved in marine insurance, equipment suppliers, telecommunication, and ship bunkering. The country is home as well to some of the world's most influential names in shipping, such as the German-owned Bernard Schultz Ship Management, the Russian Unicom Management Service, the Barat Fleet Management, and the Italian Mediterranean Shipping Company. Today, Cyprus is the largest third-party of ship management center in Europe and the largest cruise management center in the world, with the island's international ship registering is the third largest in Europe and the 10 largest in the world. We have private investments now in Cyprus in all these fields. We have real estate, exports, education, energy, investment fund, transit trade, real estate, exports, education, energy, and all of these kind of investments. Cyprus is also rapidly developing as a center for information and communication technology and research and development. Why Cyprus? Because Cyprus securing software developers, it's serving the region and the friendly business environment of Cyprus. A lot of IT companies have base in Larnaca in Cyprus, but their main clients are Middle East, from Dubai, from all over the world. It's very easy because of the easy access. They are based in Cyprus, but because of the easy access to European Union and to the Middle East, it's an ideal place for creating a company in Cyprus in these aspects. Tourism. The major pillar of our economy is the tourist industry. Tourists are well known in Cyprus for a variety of accommodation options to choose from, such as hotel, apartments, agro-tourism, rentals, hostels, camping facilities. There will be always a need for international tourists, for conference, cultural and athletic events, outdoor activities, cruise, marine sports and yachting, weddings, and honeymoons. Recent studies shows that the tourist industry increased around 7% every year. In the Mediterranean, this increase is around 12%. And especially Cyprus, because we have a safe country, we have a country without any serious problem, always Cyprus is a very attractive place for tourist investment. And especially, I can see a very good opportunity with Barat. It's only 4 hours with a direct flight. And it's something that we have to work between us, and even for Cyprus to visit Barat. The role of innovation in our society is fundamental. It's very important innovation to help satisfy national and local needs, to respect the environment and the culture. Larnaca municipality has created the conditions to attract new investors to the town, as well as promote the city as an attractive investment destination without leaving out the local business trying to expand in the international markets. What I would like to say, and I will finish, is our main target is people that visit Larnaca to feel like home. Especially, I'm very happy when I have in my office friends from Barat, friends that come and invest in Larnaca, and that's what I would like to express today. I don't know if you remember why Larnaca is a very good option for and base for investment, but what I would like to express is my sincere wish that people from Barat, people from India, friends, when they will visit Cyprus and when they will come in Larnaca, to feel like home. My office will always be open. Feel free if you are someday in our area to come to discuss, just to have a coffee and feel that the wealth of Larnaca is exactly that people feel like home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shri Andres ji. I'm sure most of us will come and visit you in Larnaca, Cyprus. We don't have a provision for Q&A in this session, so I would request Lisa ji to proceed with the next announcement. Thank you all the honorable speakers. They were not able to take your questions now, but they are available here after this session. Please feel free to approach them, ask your questions. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj, for the wonderful session. I now request our delegates to proceed for dinner. And before we do the dinner, I would just remind everyone to download the Chanakya app. I hope everybody has downloaded the Chanakya app. It's based on Android and iOS, both applications. And this app would help facilitate discussions with all the delegates and speakers, panelists present here. You can put your job postings, investment opportunities, interests, and connect with all delegates present here today. If you haven't yet received an email about the link and the password to download this app, you can register your email address at the help desk and you would get one immediately. Thank you. We can now proceed for dinner and see you tomorrow here, the same main hall, 10 o'clock. Thank you. 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. tomorrow.
सब तेरे को तू यहाँ पे है ना, तेरे को तो जान लेना।